Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Von Maxey with Mrs. Von Maxey Reads, and today we're reading one of my favorite books. I've been reading this book for my entire career and it never gets old. I read it my very first year of teaching 20 years ago. It is called The True Story of Three Little Pigs. It's told by A. Wolf, told to John Scieszka and illustrated by Lane Smith. So I wanted to show you this picture because the illustrations on this are quite interesting. And this is the 10-year anniversary. It's much older than 10 years old. So it was published in the 80s. And it's just the cover. So you can see the original cover is a newspaper article. And I like this book because it is great for perspective. So we've learned about perspective being how that's different characters' feelings and how the feelings change from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, or a story or text. But also sometimes a story can also have different points of view. So the typical story of the Three Little Pigs is one that you're already familiar with. But then there's also the wolf's perspective. So today we are taking a look at the story of the three pigs told from the perspective of the wolf. So keeping in mind our author's perspective. It even has a dear reader, but we will skip that for today. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me out. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not our fault we eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. So if you take a look at that burger there, you can see that there are some little critters. You got a little critter tush, little critter ears, and even some little critter toes right there. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold and I ran out of sugar. So you notice he's got a thermometer in his mouth because he's quite sick. And if you notice, it's an interesting cake he's making there. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without a cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. Let's make a prediction about what's going to happen. Got a big picture of a nose, all these swirls around it. Make a prediction about what you think is going to happen. Well, that's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed. Holy moly. And I sneezed a great sneeze. You can see. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He'd been there the whole time. It seemed like a shame to waste a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw. So I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled, Go away, wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. Look at those hairs on his neck. What? I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honored. So he says that's a metaphor, or it's an idiom saying that he's telling the truth. Do you think he's telling the truth? Should he eat the pig? Look at his tummy. He got 2 old hams in there. Now you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing that there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains in the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, wolf. Don't bother me again. Look, he's got those kind of little doors in the inside of a door so you can peek. It's not a nice thing to say to your neighbor. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. And I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pen. That was me nice at all. How do you think the wolf's going to react to that? I want you to put an image in your mind. Make it like a movie. What is the wolf going to do? Well, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow. But when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down this door. And the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. All of those, there's reporters, there's cops, more cops, and look what they all are. Do you see? All of the reporters, all of the cops. They're what kind of animal? They're all pigs too. Do you think he's going to get a fair trial? What would happen if they were all cows or dogs? The rest, they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the whole story about all that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. the real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. So, my question to you now is, has your mind changed about the story of the three little pigs? Where before he was the big bad wolf, and in this one, just wanted a cup of sugar for his granny. What do you think? There's no wrong answer. It's your perspective. Have a great day, everyone.